Hello students, in today's video session let us understand some concepts about parallel random access machine models and VLSI models. First of all, we shall see what exactly is the concepts. We have already seen some of the practical or physically useful architectures like uniform memory access, non-uniform memory access, cache only memory access and norma. All these different architectures we have seen. These all architectures are very useful and they are practically applicable. Now the two models whatever we are studying now, PRAM and VLSI models, they are very useful for a computer scientist. There is a difference between computer engineer and computer scientist. Computer scientist is more interested towards the theoretical or mathematical aspects of a architecture, whereas a computer engineer is more interested towards applying that to a application. Okay, hence PRAM and VLSI models whatever we are discussing in this video session are more useful from point of view of a computer scientist, okay, or from a point of view of a algorithm designer, or from a point of view of a person who is interested towards theoretical background of architecture. Let us see what exactly is PRAM and VLSI models. First, parallel random access machines. What exactly is this? Before we deal with the details of PRAM, let us understand some concepts of time-space complexities. Okay. See, any given problem is defined with a problem size S. Okay, for a computer when you are defining a problem, you are defining it with a problem size S. Okay, we call it as order of complexity, OF of S. Okay, we call it as order of complexity. Now the time complexity of any system or machine depends on the complexity of the problem. Okay, complexity of the problem, that's what is called as time complexity. You mean to say how much complicated in terms of solving the problem depends upon the time. That's what is the meaning of this. Similarly, we are having space complexity. Space complexity means so as to solve a given algorithm or problem, whatever space taken by your architecture also depends upon the complexity. The simple terms, as you are given with more complicated problem to solve, you are supposed to have more complicated space requirement. Okay, that's what is the understanding. Now whatever serial machines are there, they are having serial complexity. We call it as a serial complexity. Whatever parallel machines or parallel architectures are there, they are following parallel complexity. Whereas parallel complexity is actually is lower as compared to serial complexity. If for a given same problem, serial complexity is large as compared to parallel complexity. Generally we are having two kind of algorithms to solve a problem. One is called as deterministic algorithm and second one is non-deterministic algorithm. Deterministic algorithm means the one where you are sure of how will be the flow of your algorithm. Flow of algorithm in the sense right from execution of program to down the line how the resources are used. Everything is very determinable. What is happening in the program or in the system is determinable. Whereas non-deterministic algorithm is one where you are not able to find what is happening. Okay, it runs on its own. Most of the system, you know that they are deterministic. They follow deterministic algorithms because they want to be damn sure what is happening in the run of their program, isn't it? That's what is the difference between deterministic and non-deterministic algorithm. Now I just tell few other things like what is meant by polynomial complexity and non-polynomial non-deterministic complexity. You see, polynomial complexity is one where whenever a problem is given for you to solve, it is having some order of complexity. We call it as polynomial of complexity. Polynomial of complexity means as the order of the polynomial to be solved increases, the complexity increases. That's all. Generally, we try to solve it with deterministic algorithm. We call it as the P. And if you are solving a polynomial complexity with non-deterministic algorithm, then we call it as NP. Okay, NP is a larger set, and whereas polynomial complexity P is subset of NP. These are some of the theoretical background which I would like to give regarding parallel random access machines. We should know what is the meaning of time and space complexity, what is the meaning of deterministic and non-deterministic algorithm, what is serial and serial and parallel complexity, okay, what is polynomial complexity and non-deterministic polynomial complexity. All these are some of the theoretical mathematical background which are required for a computer scientist. I am just telling you, pressing the word computer scientist rather than a computer engineer. This gives us some theoretical abstract regarding architectures. Now let us move towards parallel random access machines. Okay, obviously you know that conventional machines are uniprocessor computers. They make use of random access machine. They make use of random access memory, and they are called as random access machines, RAM. Okay, and these wordings were given by Shepherdson and Sturgis in 1963. Okay, whereas a parallel random access machine PRAM model was developed by Fortune and Willey in 1978. 1978. Yes, obviously they had an objective before they designed or they gave the theoretical background for PRAM. Okay, or before they model it, they had an objective of developing a idealized parallel computer with zero synchronization and memory access overhead. Here let us see the structure. Try to understand that parallel random access machines are having different processors, or n processors are present in PRAM structure. Okay, I will just show you the structure here. This is, you can see that. Okay, let us see the parallel random access machine model. Okay, parallel random access machine model. Here the figure 114 shows you PRAM model, where you can see that there are n different processors which are sharing a common memory. Okay, a shared memory will be there. This shared memory can be distributed for every processor, or it can be a one memory, it doesn't matter. But here all the processors can access the memory. As Fortune and Willey told, the overhead of accessing this memory is very zero, or they all are synchronized. They operate in a synchronized fashion. That's what was the theoretical background or model which is developed. I just have elaborated all these whatever structure I shown you there. What happens is all these n processors operates such that they read an instruction, they compute according to instruction, and they write back to memory in a synchronized fashion, and there is no overhead for this. That's what is happening. But because they are operating parallelly, what operations or instructions concurrently read and written into the memory must be known to all the processors. See, these four processes are very important. One is exclusive read. The meaning here is, at the maximum, one processor can read from memory at a given time or for a given memory cycle. That's what will happen in exclusive read. Only one processor can read from the memory at a given time. Okay. Exclusive write. What happens is, in this model, only one processor will write in a memory at a given time. One time only one processor will write. Whereas concurrent read, here multiple processors can read same information from the same chunk of memory at the given time. This is possible obviously. Many processors can read from the same chunk of memory at the same given time if synchronization and overhead is not there. Next is concurrent write or CW operation. Okay, what happens here is this multiple processors will write at the same memory at the same time. Okay, here this is theoretically true, but practically whether this is true or not, one has to explore it, because you see, writing at the same time at the same point of memory is not possible. For that, one must adopt some processing algorithms or some logics to be applied here, so that all processors can utilize memory to write at a given time. Hence we call it as concurrent operation, not parallel. Try to understand, there is a difference between concurrent and parallel. Concurrent means two operations are running along together, not exactly one at a time. Concurrent means they are running parallelly but not at synchronized manner. That's what is the concurrent write. These four operations will takes place in PRAM models. Now PRAM variants. See, PRAM variants, here first is EREW, exclusive read and exclusive write. Exclusive read, EREW, here in this model, only one processor out of n processors can read and write. Only one processor, okay, that can be taken as master. EREW, where only one processor will be very active, rest all are not. Whereas second one is CREW, concurrent read and exclusive write. Concurrent read means multiple processor concurrently or parallelly try to read, where only one processor will write. This is the second alternative or a variant in PRAM model. The third one is exclusive read and concurrent write, ERCW, whereas only one processor will read and many can write. Many processors can concurrently write. And CRCW, concurrent read and concurrent write. Okay, here many processors can read and many processors can write. Again, in the CRCW model, one should know what algorithm is adopted so as to write at the same time. It is very important in case of CRCW model. Okay. Next is discrepancy with the physical model. Okay. Discrepancy means these all, as I told you, we are studying VLSI model and PRAM model. These are completely theoretical models. They are having lot of mathematical explanations, mathematical backgrounds are given, analysis are given, algorithms are given. All these are theoretical background. They are not exactly the implementable, physically implementable models. These are theoretical models. But most popular variants are EREW, that is exclusive write and exclusive read and exclusive write models are very popular, as well as concurrent read and concurrent write are very popular models which can be implementable. Okay. See, concurrent read and concurrent write algorithm can be simulated with the help of EREW model. It is observed that CRCW model is much faster. Concurrent read and concurrent write is much faster as compared to EREW model or system. Okay. We have seen previously SIMD model or SIMD machine. It is very much similar to the architecture which we are giving for PRAM, isn't it? Shared memory. You see, PRAM allows different instructions to be executed on different processors simultaneously. Okay. We can say that PRAM model is very much similar to MIMD machine, MIMD machine which we have seen. It can obviously can have a model which is very similar to SIMD or else MIMD. That's what is physical actual models. I have told you 4 different alternatives possible for our PRAMs, whereas physically we can implement 2 out of them, that is SIMD as well as MIMD. The next is VLSI complexity model. What exactly is VLSI complexity model? You see, we have seen parallel computing, parallel computers architecture. This parallel computer architecture is possible because there was a lot of development in VLSI technology, isn't it? VLSI technology will implement all this parallel computing on the same chip or same silicon area, okay, same silicon area. You know that a parallel computing needs multiple processors. First point, we need multiple processors. We need lot of memory, maybe shared one, maybe cache memory, individual memory. We need memory at second point. The third one is inter-processor communication or communication between processor to memory, memory to processor, processor to processor, all this. Hence, the third requirement will be communication buses and communication switches. These 3 need to be implemented on the same chip or same area. This complex thing is done by VLSI model. Okay. Now, we should understand that these chips are nothing but wafers. They are developed with the wafer technology, like your potato wafers. The VLSI chips are also developed with the same wafer technology. Now, wafers have become so thin that we are not analyzing them with the 3-dimensional analysis. We are doing 2-dimensional analysis. Most of these VLSI complexity model today are developed with 2D technology. Now, 3 major analysis is required to be done. One with memory, one with IO bits, one with inter-processor communication. 3 becomes very important. One is memory, one is IO or input output of information. The third one is processor. These are very important. Let us see these 3 last which I have told. Now, this is called as 80 square model. 82, it is not 82, 80 square model. This is the 80 square model which I am just showing you. See, in this 80 square model, you can see that there is a base. This base, whatever I am there, no, this base is nothing but the IC area, chip area. One should understand that this chip area determines the memory. How much memory can be there on a architecture is determined by this area. Now, the complexity of information, how it will deal, that is given by the time. That means the time complexity is in the upward or vertical direction. Try to see this. Whereas the area, whatever is there in 2-dimensional, x and y, this 2-dimensional whatever is there, no, this area gives you the memory related issue. And the next model I shall discuss later. But see, this model, whatever I am just elaborating now in the next slide, try to understand that this is called as 80 square model. 80 square model. Okay. See, in VLSI model, the first is memory. Okay, the memory whatever is there, no, is directly related with the area. As I shown you in the previous slide, the bottom or 2-dimensional area whatever we are specifying, no, that directly determines the memory on the chip. You know that the time taken for solving a given complex problem, if we take it as t, or throughput time, whatever we call, or execution time, whatever we call t, if we take it as t, then according to Thomson's, where he says that the complexity is having a lower bound such that 80 square must be greater than or equal to f of s, order of f of s. Say you are given with some complexity problem to solve for a computer architecture. You can solve if and only AT square is greater than or equal to the order of the complexity of the problem. What is the meaning of this? Say you are given with some area on the chip, and if the complexity of the problem is more, then it takes more time to solve that problem. That's the meaning. Similarly, if you want to solve a larger complexity problem, your chip must be such that its area must be large. It should have more area accommodated with more memory, then it can solve the complex problem. This is the meaning. Try to see that the complexity of a problem depends upon AT square. AT square. Let us see different bounds. Let us see the different bounds. The first bound, we call this as memory bound. First bound we call it as memory bound. The memory is bound to chip area. Memory is bound to chip area. As you know that the parallel computation need to handle lot of data. Where these data will be resided? The data will be resided in the chip. They are densely, the information or the data densely depends on the area of the chip, isn't it? Hence, this memory requirement is the lower bound on the area of the chip. The meaning here is, if the computation or the complexity needs more memory, then the area need to be increased for the chip. That's all. If you increase the area of the chip, then higher complexity problem can be solved. That is the ultimate thing. Try to understand that the memory bound or memory is equal to chip area. More memory, more area. Less memory, less area. More memory, more complex problem I can solve. That is the meaning of the memory bound. The next is AT or IO bound. We call it as AT. We call it as IO bound or AT. See, the number of input bits or processing information depends upon the area. Not only area, it depends upon the time. Because if more information to be processed, then what happens is more time is taken. If you see this first figure, see, if it takes more time to solve, what happens is it will go up. Okay, it will go up the line because the area information is more, hence more time is required. In the three-dimensional figure, more time is taken. That means our complexity increases. Hence, that we call it as information processed is equal to volume AT. Information processed is equal to volume AT. See this AT, whatever is there, no, that determines the total information that is processed. More information to be processed means more time is taken, or the volume AT will increase. Try to see that this information bit is not the bit that is carried out by your processor. Not that. It is the total bits in the information, not about the bits that is received at the input. Try to understand this. The next is communication. See, the parallel computing problem can be solved by communication between different processors or between memory and processor, memory to memory, processor to processor, like this. Simply from one area to another area, there must be communication so as to pass the information, so as to pass the data. We are having a concept called as a bisectional area concept, which divides our vertical area into two halves, as I am showing it here. You can see this figure. This figure you can take. See this figure. What happens is this area is called as bisectional area. This area is called as bisectional area. This bisectional area, whatever is there, no, that is square root of AT. This bisectional area will decide the intercommunication between one area to another area, or from one processor to another processor, or from one memory to another memory. This is what is the bisectional communication bound. Bisectional communication bound. Yeah. See, the bisectional communication bound or area limits the maximum information that can be exchanged between two areas. That's all. It is also called as bandwidth. It is also called as bandwidth. We take the square root of 80 means what? If I increase this, if I square this, I get 80 square, isn't it? Hence, I shall say that 80 square decides the communication bound or communication limitation between two processors. Actually, this is the abstracted complexity model. I told you three things here, three important things. The first is area. Area depends upon the how much memory you are supposed to carry in a chip. If you want more memory to solve a problem, more area to be provided for the chip. This is the first concept. The second is the AT bound. More volume is required if more information need to be processed. In simple terms, if you are having same area present in a VLSI chip, more information to be processed, meaning is vertically upward, the time is taken is more, or the more volume is taken. Try to understand this. Hence, AT volume depends upon the IO bits or processing bits. The third is bisectional area communication, or the communication between two area depends directly upon AT square, or we can say that the interprocessor communication or the bandwidth of data exchanged between two areas depends upon square root of AT or AT square. These three are very important. This complete model, whatever I have shown you in figure, that is called as VLSI complexity model. Okay. As the order of the complexity increases, AT square also increases. Okay. I hope you understood. I know that these classes will give you some information rather than actual teaching, but I shall brief them all these concepts later in the physical classes as and when the things are resumed back. Okay, thank you. If you are having any doubts, you can please contact me on your group. Again, you can pose any doubts or anything. I hope you are attempting the quizzes, whatever I am posting. Okay, thank you.